St. Louis couple called Mark and Patricia McCloskey became folk heroes to many across the country after they were confronted by a mob, a dangerous mob, outside their home and returned with firearms to protect it and themselves. This is what you were taught to do. It's what generations of Americans have done. It's the most basic right of all, the right of self-defense. The McCloskeys exercised that right, and now they're coming close to being destroyed. They stood up for themselves against the mob. The McCloskeys' fate remains in the hands of the mob in the form of the St. Louis Circuit Attorney General Kimberly Gardner. Gardner is a radical prosecutor, one of many elected in recent years, with financial backing from billionaire George Soros. In 2019, Gardner brought criminal charges in just 23% of the cases the St. Louis police brought her. Her policies have helped destroy that office, the St. Louis Circuit Attorney's Office. Since she took over, the prosecutor turnover there has surpassed 100%. Gardner's reaction to any criticism about this never changes. Allege a racial conspiracy against her, and then move on. At the start of this year, Gardner sued the local police union and several city officials, accusing them of, quote, a racially motivated conspiracy to deny the civil rights of minorities. She charged them under the Ku Klux Klan Act. As if. After riots ripped through countless American cities, Gardner was clear about who she supported in it all.
I've noticed that the Attorney General is tweeting quite a bit about looters and rioters, and not about the fact that we have a history of police violence in the city and nation. And that has caused people to take to the streets yet again to demand for accountability and change in our criminal justice system.
How dare you be angry about looting and crimes when the police are still out there enforcing the law? After the McCloskeys defended themselves, Gardner finally found a crime she cares about. She promised to have them punished if she could.
I am disturbed by the events that occurred over this weekend, where there were peaceful protesters who were met with guns and a violent assault. We must protect the rights to peacefully protest, and any attempts to chill it through intimidation or use of force will not be tolerated. Since learning of these events over this weekend, I've worked with the public and the police to investigate these tragic events. I will use every extent of Missouri law to hold individuals accountable.
Mark McCloskey joins us tonight, along with his attorney, Albert Watkins. Mr. McCloskey, first to you, thanks so much for coming on. And I'm glad you're on because you will tell your own story rather than having it told for you by ideologues. Describe for us, if you would, why you believed you and your wife were threatened by these 300 people in your yard.
Well, Tucker, you got to understand, my house sits right on the edge of a road called Kings Highway, and our private place is Portland Place, where my wife and I were preparing to have dinner, maybe 70 feet from the gate. By the time we looked up and we saw the marchers coming down Kings Highway and getting loud, we looked over at the gate, and there's no police there. Our private security wasn't there. Nobody's there. And I look over at my wife, and I see all these people outside the gate, and then the gate bursts open. People start coming in, and then a flood of people start coming in. They're angry. They're screaming. They've got spittle coming out of their mouth. They're coming towards the house. And, you know, on June the 2nd of this year, the protests in downtown St. Louis went violent instantly. People, the looting and violence and rioting. I watched on live TV the 7-Eleven in downtown St. Louis from the moment the first window was broken throughout the looting process till the fire was started and then till the fire fully engaged the building, and nobody came that entire time. I looked over at my wife and I said, oh my God, we're absolutely alone. There's nobody here to protect us but us. That was the same night retired police captain David Doran was murdered. When I saw that mob come through the gate with their rage and their anger, I thought that we would be overrun in a second. By the time I was out there with my rifle, the people were 20 or 30 feet from my front wall. I've got a low wall that separates the house from my front yard. And so I was literally afraid that within seconds they would surmount the wall, come into the house, kill us, burn the house down, and everything that I'd worked for and struggled for the last 32 years. Tucker, I lived out in West St. Louis County in a nice, secure neighborhood. 32 years ago, we moved into the city and took on a project to restore a house that nobody else wanted. And you know, we were urban pioneers in those days, and we've been there ever since, working to build and maintain St. Louis and this very historic neighborhood. And I saw it all going up in flames and my life destroyed in an instant. And I did what I thought I had to do to protect my hearth, my home, and my family.
Well, no one was protecting you, and they were screaming at you and threatening to murder your dog and harm you and your wife. What do you make of the attacks on you for doing what we used to believe every homeowner had an obligation to do? Why are they denouncing you as a racist?
I don't understand. And you know, here's the interesting thing. I've spent my career defending people that are defenseless, for people that are having a hard time making their miracle happen, for people that don't have a voice. My black clients love us. The night that this happened, I had some of our black clients calling us up till 2:30 in the morning, telling us how wrong it was, the way the press was writing us up, telling how wrong it was that we should be portrayed as racist. This is what I do for a living. I help people that are down and that need a hand, and the people that need a voice. To call us racist is ridiculous, and it had nothing to do with race. I wasn't worried what the race was of the mob that came through my gate. I was worried that I was going to be killed. I didn't care what race they were.
It's disgusting. Very quickly, Mr. Watkins, do you think that the McCloskeys face the risk of being prosecuted in this?
Well, given the fact that we have a political animal in the circuit attorney's office, there is a risk. If the law prevails, long-standing Missouri law prevails, they're fine.
Mark McCloskey will, though. He now faces 4 years in prison and up to a $10,000 fine for the crime of defending himself when no one else would. Mark McCloskey joins us tonight. Mark, thanks so much for coming on. I can't imagine how you feel, like you've woken up in a country you don't recognize. Tell us where you are right now legally, if you would.
Well, it's a totally upside down world, Tucker. The people that broke into my neighborhood, they're all trespassing. The guy that recruited it, that planned this event, said the next day that he intended to break the law, that it was he needed to break laws in order to send his message. None of those people are arrested. None of those people are charged. The prosecutor, the circuit attorney, has apparently decided that her job as a prosecutor isn't to keep us safe from criminals, but to keep the criminals safe from us. It's a bizarre, upside-down world. I've been a little irritated by this process until today. Now I'm just flat out pissed off. I mean, this has gotten to be outrageous.
Well, you should be afraid, too. I mean, the force of the state is coming down on you for exercising the most basic right that exists. It's a natural right, the right of self-defense. Are you going to stay in a place that seeks to put you in prison for defending yourself?
You know, everybody has to stand up and do what's right. And I'm not going to be bullied. I'm not going to be intimidated. The left, the mob, uses social intimidation and threats to get people to knuckle under and apologize for doing what's right. And we're not going to apologize for doing what's right. We're not going to back down, and we're not going to move. People need to stand up, wake up, and recognize this for what it is. It's a concerted effort to destroy our way of life, to change the fundamental basic social contract, to do away with capitalist democracy and replace it with mob rule, encouraging violence, protecting the criminals, and prosecuting people that try to defend themselves against it. It's a bizarro world.
So you've been a target of crime. You haven't backed down. You've gone on television repeatedly. People know where you live. And the state has now confiscated your firearms, so you can't protect yourself. On what grounds did they do that? Those were legally registered, as far as I understand.
Yeah, I guess in the technicality of the law is they have to determine whether or not the weapons were readily capable of being, you know, fatal or causing serious bodily harm. And so they have to take them and test them and that sort of thing. And there'll be some revelations that come out about that. But the bottom line is that, you know, the police, I've said this before, the police that came out to issue the warrant didn't want to have to do it. They knew that they were just doing their job. They were very polite about it. But nonetheless, you're right. I mean, they present the mob to our door and then strip us of our ability to defend against it.